Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Before calling tonight's meeting to order, I have one brief comment that I want to share. The gavel that I'm using tonight belonged to my father, who passed away on July 26th, this past July. I came across this gavel in his possessions. I don't know the significance to him, but I do know the significance to me, which is that it's a reminder to me of my dad and that what a great role model he was, and I really adored him. So I'm using this gavel tonight in memory of him. And with that, I call this meeting to order, the October 21st, 2020 meeting, resumption of the meeting of the Morris Township Committee. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Arvanites. Oh, Mr. Gyorfy.
Here.
Mr. Mancuso. Mr. Mancuso. Get on mute, Mr. Mancuso.
Are the two, I believe Mr. Arvanites and Mr. Mancuso are on the phone.
No, Mr.
Mr. Mancuso is in person here, but he has to unmute. That's all right. Mr. Mancuso is duly noted. Mr. Grayzel.
Here.
Mayor Wilson. Thank you.
Here.
John Arvanites here.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. And I didn't hear Mr. Mancuso. He did say here?
Yes, he is.
But I didn't hear him.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have one announcement for the public. It's come to our attention that a couple of people are having difficulty logging into Zoom. And if someone is on the phone and is having trouble logging into Zoom, I ask that you send an email to administration@morristwp.com and include your phone number, and someone will call and attempt to help you log on. If it's something at our end, we will be able to help you. If it's equipment or internet connectivity at your end, we will not. But we would like to offer that service to anyone from the community who needs it. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the September 16th meeting and the September 23rd special meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. At this time, we have our community service recognition for Meals on Wheels, and we have some members of the board joining us. They are, I believe, called in, and at this time, I'd like to ask that they be moved to the panelists, if that's possible.
They're going to have to identify themselves because they may not have.
Okay, could you please raise your digital hand if you are one of the members of the Meals on Wheels board? I know that Carol Scullin and Lillian Kendiavovitz will be joining us for sure.
I'm trying to scroll it to the top. I got one.
Sandy Cunningham, Mike Cutter, Michelle Patowski, Michael Zamaninski,
Yeah.
and Stephanie
Carol's underneath this one.
Cesario.
Mm-hmm. They need to raise their hand because they're.
I would ask again if any of the names I just called, especially Carol Scullin and Lillian Kendiavovitz, if you could raise your digital hand.
Carol and Lillian did, and they've been moved.
Oh, they have. Okay, I can't see that. I'm sorry. So is there anyone else to raise their digital hand who's a member of the Meals on Wheels board? No? So can we then see Carol and Lillian as panelists?
Lillian's top right.
Okay. Oh,
Can Lillian start her video?
yeah, I'd like, what's that?
Lillian can start her video, we can see her.
Okay. Lillian, if you would like to start your video, you could, or if you prefer to remain on phone, you could. Oh, there you are. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is Carol here? Is Carol on?
Yep, she has to start her video as well.
Okay, Carol, if you could start your video, there you are. Is that Carol?
Yes.
Do I click it
No,
again?
no.
You've got a different name there. Are you, is that Carol Scullin?
Yes.
Okay, welcome. Welcome to both
Thank
of you. And thank you for being here to represent Meals on Wheels. We're very glad to have you. We have a presentation for you tonight, and I will say that we're very pleased to finally be able to honor you. We've been talking about this. We wanted to do it last spring, and with COVID, we were trying to do it in person, and we finally kind of given up the in-person, and we're doing it now by Zoom. So I'd like to share a little bit about the story of Meals on Wheels. Everyone knows, most people have heard of it, everyone knows it's a wonderful program, but the story that led to the founding of Meals on Wheels is not well known. So I'd like to take this opportunity to fill in our audience on some of that story. So the story of Meals on Wheels begins in war-ravaged Britain during the 1940s. As a result of Axis bombing, there were thousands upon thousands of homeless and displaced in England, including many of the elderly desperately in need of help. The volunteer meal delivery program created to meet that need was Meals on Wheels. After the war, the program began to spread, first to continental Europe and then around the world. Today, Meals on Wheels programs extend to places as far away as New Zealand. The impetus for the local Meals on Wheels organization came in 1971 when the county's newly formed Department on Aging approached Morris County's Nutrition Council about establishing home-delivered meals program. In 1973, with donations of $1,000, a bunch of used trays, and a grand total of 4 clients, Morristown Meals on Wheels opened for business. Lots of help came from our community. Local churches provided volunteers for each day of the week. The Junior Women's Club gave us the first volunteer coordinator. The Visiting Nurse Association trained volunteers, and various churches and civic groups donated money. Over the past 40 years, hundreds of caring volunteers have served thousands of grateful Morristown and Morris Township clients and delivered more than 300,000 trays. Clients receive a full-course dinner, nice and hot for lunchtime, and a cold supper of juice, salad, sandwich, fruit, and a beverage for the evening. The food is exceptional, the service is exceptional, and the food is delicious. The meals are prepared by a licensed dietitian and freshly prepared in the kitchens of the Rehabilitation Institute of Morristown Memorial Hospital. The charge is very moderate, probably a little more than it would cost people to shop and prepare meals themselves. No one is ever turned away for an inability to pay. So with that as background, I'd like to share with the public and with you the award that you'll be receiving. It'll be framed and you'll have to come in and pick it up at another time, but this is what the award will say. Certificate of Recognition for Community Service to Meals on Wheels. With grateful recognition, the Mayor and Township Committee hereby commends Meals on Wheels, a nonprofit organization that serves within our community, helping homebound individuals of all ages by providing hot nutritious meals delivered by caring and compassionate volunteers. The Meals on Wheels have a remarkable record of community service, exemplary volunteerism, leadership, and achievement. Volunteers are the hearts and hands of Morristown Meals on Wheels. On behalf of the residents of Morris Township, we extend our appreciation for all of your selfless and untiring work in and around our community. We hereby recognize and extend congratulations to Meals on Wheels Community Service Award, October 21st, 2020, and it's signed by all the members of the Morris Township Committee. So we'd like to thank you so much for your service to our community. And it's lovely to meet you tonight. If you'd like to share a few words, feel free.
Thank you so much for
Just keep
the
talking.
recognition. I'm sorry, I didn't know if I was being heard or not.
Yes, you're on. We hear you. Thank you so much for all you do. I know this is a wonderful program. I've known people who have received the meals, and I know people who are the volunteers. And it's just a wonderful program for all involved. We so appreciate all that you do.
Thank you.
Lillian, did you want to say anything?
Well, I wanted to thank you so much for the recognition, especially for Carol. She and Terry have been just the backbone of Meals on Wheels. They have been carrying this organization, and it is so wonderful for them to be recognized. So I'd like to just say congratulations, Carol, and thank you so much, Kathy and Mark, and for this recognition. Thank you.
Thank you. If you were here, everyone would be clapping. The award, where it'll be framed. And so we will get that to you. We'll be in touch with you about picking it up or getting it to you somehow. And with that, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So it is my understanding that our tech guys are going to switch you back to being audience members. And then if you want to stay on for the meeting, we would welcome you to. If you want to do something else, that's okay too. But thank you so much for coming in. I'm so glad we were finally able to get it to work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have our discussion of best practice. So Mr. Quinn, would you like to introduce that?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor. The best practices questionnaire has been in place through the state for approximately 7 years. It's basically looking at making sure that the things we do are compliant with state guidelines, state law, primarily dealing with things of personnel, finance, budget, capital programs, procurement, and transparency. The questions vary each year, up, down, that kind of thing. State aid to municipalities is a component of it, and you have to score well to get all of your state aid. For this year, there were 29 questions that had to be answered. You had to have a positive answer for 16 or more. Our score for that was 24. So we did extremely well, as we have in past years, and it's really a credit to our staff on the finance side, the purchasing side, and our human resources to make sure that we are doing everything in the proper manner, and what are the best practices to make sure that we have run an efficient municipal government. And we can certainly pride ourselves year after year for doing that. We've never had a concern where we might lose state aid because of things that we should have done that we did not do. This year's They also added a survey component to that. And that dealt with a lot of things that they're looking for information on COVID-19, on shared services, on affordable housing, to name a few, just to kind of get some feedback from the municipalities as to what's going on in the communities. And I'm sure they'll take that information and put out some type of report after the first of the year. But the survey itself was disseminated to all of our committee members, and certainly would be pleased to answer any questions to any of our responses.
Thank you. So the completion of this form is required in order to qualify for any type of aid from the state, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Yes, and they do change the questions year by year. I remember last year there was a lot more questions.
Yes, it goes back and forth. Sometimes there are duplicate questions from year to year. Other times there's new questions. They put it into a new format where it used to be an Excel spreadsheet that got sent down. It's now a online inventory that we do through what they call the FAST system. So it's a little bit different in the formatting, but it's basically essentially the same as making sure that in the highlighted areas of municipal government, personnel, budget, finances, that we are following the appropriate state guidelines and procedures.
And so this is created and returned to the Department of Local Government Services?
Yes, ma'am. Our CFO, Francine DeAngelis, and our municipal clerk, Catherine Emilio, will get that sent down to them.
Okay. I find it interesting to watch how they change their questions year by year, and this year the questions, they called them non-scored. That did not contribute to your score as far as you have to, like Mr. Quinn said, you have to get at least 16 to qualify. We had 24, we clearly exceeded the requirements, but they were collecting information on an unscored basis about shared services and zoning practices, which you could see when you read the questions connected with affordable housing. So I find it interesting that the DLGS is collecting information on those things, just as a point of information. Does anyone else have any questions or comments on the best practices questionnaire?
No comments.
It's sort of a tradition that Morris Township does really well on this. The practices that they identify are clearly in place in our town. And we exceed the standards that they're identifying.
May I say something, Mrs. Mayor?
Yes.
Peter Mancuso here.
Yes.
Just all congratulations to the entire staff who worked on this, but especially Fran DeAngelis. 16 is passing. It's like an IQ score, but I think we had somewhere near 24. And I just think that's a wonderful tribute to all the work that goes on behind the scenes here. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Don't sell yourself short. It's the oversight we get. So.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Next we have I was going to make a quick comment. We have a changed agenda, right? Yes. Okay, I'm gonna have that on my. Okay. Anyway, we will be doing our first public comment in a minute. And I just wanted to make a few comments, updating the public on the Abbey before we do our first public comment period. So we are taking steps. If you see the agenda tonight, we are taking steps to address the financial aspect of the Abbey project. And this is, it's complex. It's a specialty field of law, and it is an important topic. And I would like the public to know that we have talked on the Township Committee about offering an information session for the public, which we are planning to do. And so what my hope for that is that we have it scheduled for November 9th. My hope for that is that at that time we can answer we can provide some generic background information for understanding how pilots work in general. Like I said, it's complicated, and I think that will help at our November meeting on that week. In other words, to get some of the sort of background information shared prior to the actual township committee meeting. So we will be doing that. As far as tonight, we have 2 documents that that we will be dealing with tonight. One, I'm going to hold them up. They're big and they're thick, and one is the financial agreement, which this will be introduced in the ordinance. When we get to the ordinance section, this document will be introduced by an ordinance in that when we introduce. And then we also have an application for a long-term tax exemption, and that application is also a big complex legal document. Will be that is a separate document that our RH will be submitting to the state, and we will be dealing with that tonight by resolution. So I know I'm just to sort of give you some background. These documents are thick, they're full of a lot of information, and I just wanted to give that sort of basic background before we get into the body of the meeting. And then as far as the redevelopment agreement, which we have talked about here before, that document is in the process of being, it's not complete yet, but this is the document, the redevelopment agreement, that addresses the concerns that have come up with the immediate neighbors. And we will be posting that document, the redevelopment agreement, on our website well in advance of the November meeting. And I want the public to know also that we will find a way to meet with the neighbors and explain and answer questions. We don't have a date for that. We're not sure if it's going to be a phone call or a Zoom meeting or whatever, but we will be making sure that the neighbors have an opportunity to get informed prior to the November meeting. Our planner, Mr. Paul Phillips, will be joining us at those meetings. And our goal for that is that the neighbors have an understanding of the document and an opportunity to ask any questions and answers they may have before the November meeting. The redevelopment agreement will be on the November meeting agenda as a resolution, not as an ordinance. So with that as background on the Abbey, I'd like
Mayor?
to, yes.
Mayor, just to round out your remarks if I could.
Yes.
So the financial agreement that you held up that's going to be passed or introduced tonight as an ordinance, there will be a full public hearing on that document on November 12th. So it's not up for discussion tonight. It's just an ordinance that we're introducing as usual with a full public hearing on November 12th.
Yes, thank you. I meant to say that. Thank you. And while I'm thinking of it, the November meeting is going to be November 12th, while I'm thinking of it, it's a Thursday. It's not a Wednesday. November 11th is Veterans Day, and so we are not meeting that day. And typically we meet the third Wednesday, but typically the third Wednesday is the week of municipalities conference. But this year, of course, that's been changed with COVID. So the bottom line is that our November meeting will be on November 12th, Thursday. So more about that later. Anyway, I believe it's time for public comment, our first one this evening. And I'm going to count on Mr. Sims because I cannot read from a distance. Alice, indeed. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Wilson and members of the Township Committee. This is Allison Deeb, and I am speaking to you tonight on behalf of the Whippany River Watershed Action Committee, of which I am their facilitator. It's nice to see everyone, and I hope you're all doing well despite this troubling time. I recently started with the Whippany River Watershed Action Committee, of which you are one of our municipal members. And first, I would like to thank you for your dues payment. You're one of few organizations that gets your dues in on time, and we really appreciate that because we're a very small nonprofit, as you know, and would not be able to survive without your and the other towns' dues payments on an annual basis. I'm here tonight to just update you to let you know that despite the pandemic, the Whippany River Watershed Action Committee has been very busy. We've held all our 8 guest speaker presentations this year. February and March were in person, and then April through November next month will be virtual. So I'd like to invite you all to participate. If you're interested, our meetings are virtual on Zoom. Our next guest speaker presentation will be November 4th, and we will be discussing stormwater management, and the speaker for that is it's on our website. It's one of the utilities in Morris County with Hanover Township. We installed a chronologue device at Speedwell Lake, one of our probably most famous watershed locations. And it's an interactive nature photography camera that allows park visitors to take screenshots of Speedwell Lake and then post it to our website, and it allows to do like a time series. And this is our pilot, and if this works out well, we hope to install others so that we can promote the watershed. And one idea I had for you that would help promote your town would be Burnham Park, Burnham Pond, or any other area that you think would be good within your township. We also facilitated, supported, and funded through a couple of grants, the installation of a rain garden in Mountain Lakes. And the ribbon cutting was just a couple of weeks ago, and that project made New Jersey 12 news. We had a kayak trip using safe guidelines this past Saturday. I wasn't able to be there, but there were 17 kayakers. And just another big highlight, which involves your town, is that we implemented the first class of high school and college interns. And we had 3 interns from FDU, and they were just stellar people, just stellar. So 2 heads up, we are currently planning the first Morris County Bio Blitz, and that's going to be Saturday, June 12th. I'd like to invite all of the members of the committee. It's going to be from 10 a.m. to dusk, and it's going to be a series of different activities for the environment, ending with like a little festival dinner party. And there'll be more information on our website about that. And we do have an annual report that you'll be getting. It's going to summate the last 2 years of all of our activities. So look for that hard copy. And we do have a calendar that we are going to be putting out for 2021, because we're all excited and looking forward to 2021. And that's featuring a local artist. And then we're planning a virtual river cleanup, because the one thing we had to cancel was our annual cleanup, and that usually drew like 50 people, and I know a lot of your town residents participated in that. So we're right now planning a virtual river cleanup, and we're trying to work out the logistics with that. And other than that, I just want to point out that each town has a number of appointments, and we are so grateful for you to appointing Siva Janata, because he's been wonderful. I just want to remind you, you have 3 more appointments that you can make. Each town gets 4 appointments total. One is the mayor, obviously, or the mayor designee. The second is a town employee in the area of recycling or environmental, or waste management or recycling. The third is a commission, which I guess Siva would be under because he's on your environmental commission. And your fourth is a resident. So I just wanted to ask and ask you and appeal to you all tonight for you to appoint a resident who has been a volunteer with our organization and is helping out with the planning of the BioBlitz. Her name is Jen Karsich, and she's a resident of Morris Township and is interested in participating. And it's so important to us because we're such a small nonprofit with only 2 paid staff, myself and one other person, but together we don't even make 1 FTE. Together we do not make 1 full-time equivalent. I'm only working 25 hours a month. So by giving us these appointments, it helps to expand the resources of our organization. It helps build our own resource capacity. And most importantly, it can help us serve you better and serve the towns better. So I urge you and appeal to you all tonight, if you can make that appointment and the other appointments that are vacant as well.
Thank you so much for joining us, Allison. I'm a big supporter of the Whippany River Watershed Action Committee. And we have made appointments. I believe we have 3, but I did get your email, which I thank you for, and I'm understanding that we have 4 that we could make. So we will look at adding another person, and I know Jen is interested, and we'll be looking at this and figure out a way to get her involved in this.
Mayor, we did make the comment that.
Thank you so much.
Yes, yes, you know.
There'll be reappointments at the organization.
Yes, right.
What
Okay. So,
I couldn't hear that other person speaking. Was that?
that was Mr. Quinn.
Oh, okay.
Allison, we did make the appointments at the reorganization meeting in June to fill our spots, and we'll be making those reappointments again at the reorganization meeting.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah,
I can send you a list of our appointments if you need it.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind you, I'm going to all the towns just to remind the towns you do have 4 appointments.
Yeah, and I will check that because it was my recollection that we only made 3 appointments, not 4. But we'll check on that, and we will make sure that we fill all of our appointments for 2021.
Yeah, it is unclear. It is in our bylaws, and I don't know if all the towns knew they had up to 4 appointments, Mayor. So I just wanted to clarify that with you, that so you knew that if you did have the capacity, that you knew that, because some of the towns weren't aware.
Yes, and I'm also glad to see that Siva Janata is going to be playing more of a leadership role with the Whippany River Watershed Group, and he will do a good job. So I was very happy to hear that.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was public or not yet, but I wanted to. I did want to just at least, I would be remiss if I didn't say how wonderful he has been, because he's been the chair of the Outreach and Education Committee and just has been terrific. And we're so lucky to have him, as you know, with board members. Sometimes some just attend and some don't even attend the meetings, but he makes an extra effort to do so much. So we're very appreciative of that. Thank you.
You know, and he keeps the Environmental Commission updated likewise. So there's a good partnership building there, which I'm very happy to see.
And the other thing I just wanted to add too is that the Whippany River Watershed Action Committee is going to be participating in the Burnham Park Pond Master Plan. So we will be a voice for you there as well. So I understand I wasn't able to make the first meeting, but there's going to be 2 meetings. So I know that you know, our organization, the Whippany River Watershed Group, will also have be planning to participate in those meetings as well.
Great, thank you. I think Mr. Quinn had something else.
Allison, I know you just came on board, but one of the issues was that invoices were never sent out this year for the payment. And also for municipalities to know that they can use their clean communities money to make that to them. So, but that was one of the concerns we've had is invoices were never sent out to municipalities, and Mr. Canada brought to my attention.
Okay.
We did get our payment, but we never received an invoice back for that. And I don't believe the other municipalities may have gotten invoices. And also the reminder to use their clean communities money as the ability to pay the dues.
Thank you for pointing that out to me, Administrator. I was not aware of that. So I just joined in December, January timeframe. And then, as you know, the pandemic hit in March. And so so we had to kind of pivot like every other organization and all of that. But I thank you for pointing that out to me. And I will make sure that going forward, we try to streamline that process and make it more efficient.
Okay. Thank you so much, Allison. We appreciate
Thank you.
your work.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate hearing from you. Thank you. Do we have anyone else, Mr. Sims?
No, there's no other hands raised.
No other digital hands that we see. Okay.
Another opportunity.
Yes. So I guess we need a motion to close the public comment.
So moved. Public comment?
Mr. Mancuso, was that a second?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next up, we have ordinance 2020, Mr. Carlson.
Onward and upward. Yes, first we have one ordinance tonight for public hearing and final consideration. It is ordinance 20-20. This is an ordinance amending chapter 95 entitled zoning and chapter 57 entitled land development, the code of the Township of Morris.
Thank you. And this is what is known as our we call it the houses of worship ordinance.
It's not just houses of worship, it covers a lot
I
of
know,
different.
it's our sort of nickname for it. It covers houses of worship, places of assembly, and schools.
Correct.
So does anyone from the Township Committee have any?
Well, we should move it first. So I'll move 2020 for final consideration.
Second.
This is for introduction.
No, this is
Oh,
for
I'm
final
sorry, you're right.
consideration.
Final.
Sorry about that.
And now we open it up for public hearing.
Okay. So we are open for public hearing. If there is anyone from the public who would like to comment on this ordinance, please raise your digital hand.
No hands.
No hands. Is there anyone from the Township Committee who would like to comment?
Well, first I'd like to move that we close public commentary.
Okay. Can I have a second to move on the motion to close public commentary?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, so we're closing public commentary, and now we're to any comments anyone on the Township Committee would like to offer. Mr. Grayzel.
Thank you. So as a member of the planning board and also as a member of the planning board's subcommittee that did work putting this ordinance together, I can tell you that a lot of work went into this. We had looked at a range of different ordinances to get at rules and regulations governing the places of assembly, houses of worship, and schools, from ordinances that were quite broad to ordinances that were very detail oriented, and we took a middle road. And I think what we came up with is very good, but a lot of thought and a lot of deliberation. I want to make sure everybody knows went into this to make sure that we got it right.
Thank you. I agree with that. And I believe we said this at our last meeting, but I'll highlight it one other time. A significant reason for us moving forward with this ordinance was because we had a lot of inconsistencies in our code, and we wanted to make our directions consistent across zones and to sort of sort out any inconsistencies. We wanted to clarify definitions for places of worship, places of assembly, and just sort of clean up what was kind of was confusing at times and at times contradictory in our existing code. So I am personally very happy with the language that we've agreed on. And like Mr. Grayzel said, it did take us, we had quite a few meetings, quite a few discussions here, and our professionals are very supportive of this ordinance. And I feel like we've accomplished the goals that we set for ourselves in getting to this point.
And I agree with everything you've said. Just one more thing to add is we addressed also accessory structures on those kinds of properties, which was not very clear in our current code. So now we have definitions in there for different types of accessory structures and the limitations on such. So like you said, it really cleans up our code, makes it much more clear to anybody who wants to apply within any of those zones what the real bounds are within each of those zones.
That's correct. Okay, so if with that, I guess we'll take a vote. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Arvanites.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Gyorfy.
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso.
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel.
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes. I, Catherine J. Wilson, Mayor, declare the ordinance adopted and finally passed, approve the same, and direct that the clerk publish proper notice thereof in the newspaper and record the ordinance in the proper place. Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move now to our ordinances for introduction. Mr. Carlson.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we have 3 ordinances for introduction tonight. The first being Ordinance 21-20. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 385 entitled Property Maintenance, adding a new Article 4 entitled Bamboo Regulations.
Okay, thank you. So I need someone to.
Mayor, I'll move to introduce.
Thank you, Mr. Gyorfy. Second.
I would second that.
Okay, so it's been seconded twice and it's introduced, and our process here is if anyone from the Township Committee would like to say anything, yes, they could, but we will have our public hearing on this at our November meeting.
Mayor, I'd just like to give some background. If that's
Before we vote, can Mr. Gyorfy make a comment or two? Go ahead, Mr. Gyorfy.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to give some background to the residents and those who are watching. I'd like first of all, I'd like to thank the Environmental Commission, particularly Buzz Kenny, the chair, and Siva Janata, for their work helping us introduce this ordinance. I believe passing this ordinance is a step in the right direction to protect taxpayers from the burdensome costs of mitigating the spread of bamboo onto both private and public properties in the township. As we all know, bamboo is an extremely invasive species. We are seeing instances of bamboo spreading onto properties and in some instances onto public land, and it has become abundantly clear that the township should do more to deter folks from planting bamboo in the future. This ordinance is not intended to punish or isolate current residents who have existing plantings of bamboo on their property. Rather, it focuses on helping prevent future in-ground plantings and spread. We are seeing bamboo clusters spread sporadically across the township, particularly from private property onto township-owned land. My biggest concern is that in the future, taxpayers will be left footing the bill to remediate these areas from this invasive species due to the fact that many property owners are unable to control it or they can't afford to remove it. While this ordinance does not solve our existing issues, I am hopeful it will prevent future instances of uncontrolled spread. Quite frankly, if an ordinance like this existed decades ago, I'm not sure we'd be facing these current challenges. But as the saying goes, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. In this instance, now is the best time to try to stem the planting of bamboo. So I look forward to passing this ordinance in November. I ask for the committee's support, and I look forward to working with the Environmental Commission on working to address the unnecessary spread of other invasive species that threaten our local environment.
Thank you, Mr. Gyorfy, and I thank you for your interest and contributions to getting this created and moving it forward. Any other comments? No?
Nope.
So we need a vote, a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please,
Yes.
to introduce ordinance 2120.
Mr. Arvanites,
Yes.
Mr. Gyorfy,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes. So the second read and public hearing will be at our November 12th meeting. Thank you. 2220, Mr. Carlson.
Thank you, Mayor. Next ordinance for introduction is ordinance 22-20. This is an ordinance of the Township of Morris, County of Morris, New Jersey, authorizing and approving the financial agreement for tax exemption with the Madison Avenue Urban Renewal LLC for the redevelopment of Block 8409, Lot 1, commonly known as the Abbey site, in accordance with the long-term tax exemption law, NJSA 40A:20-1 et sec.
Thank you.
I'll move ordinance 21-20 for introduction. I'm sorry, 22-20.
2220. I'll second 2220.
Thank you. Just for point of clarification, this is the ordinance that introduces the financial agreement for long-term tax exemption. This is the large document that I held up at the beginning, and this will be on our website, and anyone who would like to review it can do so, correct? So this will be up as of, I guess, tomorrow morning. Okay. Is there any discussion? Anyone on the committee? No? Okay, in that case-
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Mayor
Sure.
John Arvanites.
Yes.
At our last meeting that we were discussing the redevelopment issue with Restoration Hardware, I brought up the pilot program, and I was told that that wasn't necessarily part of the package or the deal. When I received a letter from you the other day, I was just wondering, you knew about it, but who else knew that we were at this point?
What are you talking about at the last meeting?
At the last meeting, I started talking about the pilot, that Restoration Hardware would not be moving forward if it wasn't for the pilot program. And I don't remember who said it, but somebody said that that's not true and that's not part of the deal. And
No, that's not what was said, as I recall. What was said was that the financial agreement was a separate issue to what we were discussing at the time.
Yeah,
So,
well,
and it
the pilot, but anyway, so other than you, who else knew that it was at that point that we were going to be talking about this today?
I believe everyone, to my understanding. If the agreement was not written until recently, but there was discussion among all of us that our professionals were working to create something.
Okay, well, again, we'll disagree on what I thought was said at the last meeting and what you think was said at the last meeting, but whatever answer I got seems today a little deceptive to me, but I'll let it go. Thank you.
You could check the video, Mr. Arvanites.
I will.
Yeah, I'd be happy to check that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Quinn, did you have something? Okay. So this is an ordinance for introduction. Like I said earlier, we will be attempting to educate the public on generic background on pilot programs. That'll be on November 9th. And we will be having a public hearing and vote on this ordinance at our November 12th meeting. So with that, I would ask Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Arvanites,
No.
Mr. Gyorfy,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes. Thank you. Moving on to ordinance 23-20, Mr. Carlson.
And just to be clear, that will be considered at the November 12th meeting on final hearing as well, correct?
The 22-20?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Good. Final ordinance for introduction is ordinance 23-20. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 9, Article 1, Section 9-3, membership, terms of office, to add non-voting associate members and student members to the Environmental Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Carlson.
I'll move 23-20 for introduction.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. So I would offer just one comment. I am very glad to see this ordinance on our agenda. I've been advocating that we expand our membership on the Environmental Commission for a while, and we will now be doing that. This ordinance will open membership to what's called associate members, of which there could be adults or there could be students, and we specifically the people that we place as associate members do not necessarily have to be residents of our town, in part because we realize that, for example, our school system draws from 3 different towns. So we're kind of imagining there might be students from Morris Plains or Morristown who might have an interest. And the same for the adult associate members. We do have some people who have some real interest and expertise on invasive species who have expressed an interest in coming on board and helping us, and that's part of why we're looking at adding some additional members. So with that, if no one else has any additional comment or question, I would ask, Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Arvanites.
Yes.
Mr. Gyorfy.
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso.
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel.
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes. Thank
Mayor,
you.
may I-
Moving on.
Mayor, it's Peter Mancuso. May I just say something?
Yes. Sure.
Did you read your notice after Ordinance 2020 was passed?
Yes,
Indicating
I did.
You did, okay.
I did. I could read it again. No, I did.
Okay.
Okay, next,
Resolutions.
resolutions.
All right, just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. First, Mr. Gyorfy, I'm going to assume that you want 213-20 voted on separately.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Are there any others?
Yes, sir. I would request that we separate out, where is it, 190, 198, please. I think that deserves a special recognition.
198, well, what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you all, is that I believe there's only one that we're pulling from the vote, and then there are several that we are just asking some questions and clarifications on. So you're not pulling that one for a separate vote?
Yes, I am.
Oh, you are?
I am.
Okay,
Yes,
all right,
I'm requesting that.
okay. So we have 2 then, for a separate vote?
Correct. I have one new one.
Yeah, so we are adding, we have a late starter. This is resolution 216-20. This is denying grievance number 20-02 that was filed by the FMVA on August 5th.
Mr. Gyorfy is going to recuse himself from that one as well. So with that said, I'd like to move, Mr. Gyorfy is recusing himself from which ones?
213, 216.
213. I'd like to move 190 to 197, then 199 to 209, because 210 is being reserved for something else in the future. Correct. And then 211 through 216, subtracting, I guess, 213 and 216. So 213, yeah, if that's clear.
What he said.
What he said. So 190 through 197, 199 through 209, then 211, 212, 214, and 215. Is that correct?
That's right.
Very good. I'd like to
Okay.
move those.
Second?
I think I will second that.
Okay, so before we vote on those, I wanted to ask a few questions about certain ones. So 194-20, our hazard mitigation plan update. I wanted to ask for Mr. Quinn to just explain a little bit about that.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a plan that is done with the County Office of Emergency Management. It is required to be updated every 5 years and involves all 39 municipalities within the county, and it just an overall planning for major events that take place, but also providing a significant amount of information on each municipality and the response to certain things. So it starts off with, our hazard mitigation planning team, which is primarily contacted by Mr. Slater, our engineer. It provides an overall view of our municipality, both in size, but also in the types of housing and businesses that we have. It also brings up, what have we done since the last 5 years as to new developments that have gone into town, and with the affordable housing, we've had a significant amount of those. Also, any new commercial entities that have come in go into that, and then what we see in the future for current applications going before the Planning Board and the Board of Adjustment. I should have started. This is primarily for the period of 2015 through 2019, so it did not address some of the COVID-19 things that we had this year, or the tropical storm Isaias as part of the review for that. It reviews how we handle many things on the planning side in preparing for emergencies. What is our capacity to respond to certain incidents, such as equipment and manpower, different types of staffing go into it. What are our fiscal capacities? What are our sources of funding in the event of a significant emergency? What resources do we have to be able to respond? And then what are we doing on an education and outreach component for our community as part of that? And then we also get into the National Flood Insurance Program, what areas that other townships fit into that, what are we doing in reference to the different entities of that for flood mitigation. It's planning, education, outreach, fiscal, those kinds of things. And then it also looks into what kind of events have we had over the past 5 years that have impacted Morris Township. Primarily, those were 2 major storms. We had a major 3-foot storm back in January of 16, and then we had the series of nor'easters back in March of 2018 were the major incidents that we had here in Morris County and Morris Township. We also then get into the health department, looking at disease outbreak, droughts, what are our dams, what are our hazardous substances, any types of infestations that could affect the overall quality of life for that. We try and identify what are our critical facilities, so such as our sewer plants, our fire companies, police departments, Department of Public Works, as part of that for critical facilities to provide services to our residents. And as we completed our plan with the county and their consultant, we have an approximately 30-page document that goes over the different things and then identifying issues that we plan to be addressing over the next 5 years, especially with flood mitigation. And that's primarily the document, and it'll be made into a larger document by the county with all the municipalities once this resolution is adopted of the plan that has been put in place.
There's a lot there, and I thank you for all the work that went into that.
It's been about a year or two working with primarily with our engineering department and Jim Slade, and then getting support from all of our other departments that were needed over the past 12 months.
Thank you. I would like to look at it in a little more detail than we have.
I always have paper.
I know, thank you. And it may be also that our environmental commission, certain members of the EC may be interested in looking at this in a little more detail as well. I feel like there's a lot of work here and a lot of good information for people to be aware of. So I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
On resolution number 202-20, the extension on the affordable housing on the Equality Amendment site.
Certainly, Mayor. Back in July of 2019, working with JMF in regards to the affordable housing project as part of the Colgate redevelopment site. As you may recall, when we went through our affordable housing declaratory judgment, originally they were required to produce 30 units. They are producing 66 units to help us with that. 6 of those units were for special needs, and then they were building a 60-unit apartment complex to meet that need. Under the guidelines on affordable housing, the units are supposed to be structured in with the market rate units. They needed some relief on that because of building, they were going to build them all at once because it's an apartment building. So we agreed, the township agreed with that last summer that they would build those 60 units all at once with a targeted completion date of September of 2020. As you know, we've gone into a number of issues with COVID-19 that caused them some delays, but actually the bigger delay for them was some very difficult soil conditions that required them to do some geotechnical testing on there. As a result of that testing, they had to redesign their footings. They have to put in some pilings, what they call geopiers. That work is going on now. They've asked for an extension for that to May the 1st. We're recommending that the governing body do that. The protocols to protect the township to make sure the affordable housing is built are still in place, and that is the final 20 units of the Lennar Colgate development cannot get their COs until this project is substantially completed. But I was up there last week, and the land use work is actively going on, preparing the site for it. So reasonably certain that we'll get this done.
And the May 1st deadline is for completion?
Substantially completed.
Substantially completed. Okay. Okay, and then
It also cost them that additional $850,000 in cost because of some of the concerns with the soil and having to put in these geopiers to support the building.
so it sounds like the soil is not solid and firm enough?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that update. And then I just wanted to highlight our resolutions 208, 209, and 211. We have 3 employees who are being recognized for 40 years of service to our community, which to me is just really commendable and a huge milestone. Albert Simmons, Michael Sandelli, and Dennis Reed, thank you for your service to Morris Township. Really appreciate all that you've done, and congratulations on that. And then, Mr. Quinn, if you could comment on Resolution 213, the $15,000 grant our fire department got.
Yes, Mayor. As part with the COVID-19 response, the Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program opened up, and that was to provide PPE equipment to local fire departments. There's 2 stages of that. The first stage we did apply. We were fortunate enough to be given that grant for the purchase of protective equipment for our firefighters in the amount of $15,000. And this is putting it back into the budget so we can expend the funds and then be reimbursed once those funds are expended.
And that is a federal grant, correct?
Yes, but it's coming through the state OEM office.
Okay. I'd like to extend special thanks to Chief Nunn and to Gianna Del Col for their work on this. And we have applied for other portions of the AFG grant before, and this is the first time we've gotten funded, correct?
That is correct. It is directly related to this. And we just submitted a second grant. They had phase 2, and we just submitted that last week for phase 2 of the same grant for $15,000.
Is it still further COVID related?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
That's great. So thank you for that. Okay, that's all I have for questions. Mr. Grayzel?
Thanks. So you ended on 213, so I'll ask about 214, which is for electrical systems at the pool. And given the shortfall that we had in the pool budget this year, such as the COVID and the lack of membership, is this something we should be moving forward this year or wait till next year?
I would strongly recommend it, sir. We've had numerous electrical issues up there with power surges that have blown out the hot water heaters and the outlets and caused some there. We've been working with JCP now, also looking at, bulb meters and that kind of thing, but there is funding in the operating budget. I met with Mr. Falls, our Parks and Director. This is a study to see what we can do to correct this issue, but over the last several years, we've had some significant expenses in replacing the equipment because of these power surges and trying to regulate the electricity coming with the pool. There's an issue there. It doesn't appear to be JCP now, which is so we need to hire a consultant to assist us in identifying what needs to get done to correct this issue, because it is rather cost intensive and also takes out the hot water and doesn't make our pool customers as happy when they don't have hot water showers.
Mhm.
So I would recommend that we do move forward on, because we do have the funding in the budget. Although, as you know, we have significant shortages in the pool revenue, but this is an important source or important issue that needs to get resolved for the pool, and I can get it done before we open up the pools for next summer.
Very good. And also 190 related to Team Pride, which is for those members of the community who don't know Team Pride. It's an after-school program that's run by a, not-for-profit service called Team Pride.
Right.
And they run programs out of their facility on, I always forget the name of the street, Morristown.
What is that street?
So they operate
They were there, and they're over there at the old Salvation Army.
the old Salvation Army.
They're no longer there. They were leasing space out of Morristown. I'm not sure if they still are or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but they run a lot of programs out of Freeling Heights Middle School and high school.
Right, they run counseling programs and then peer groups at both Freeling Heights and Morristown High School. There's a wide diversity of different programs for all girls groups to bereavement groups, and then also dealing with students that have different concerns, especially home life concerns, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more one-on-one counseling, but it's really a lot of group counseling that they've been doing, and a lot of groups for that. And they changed their model a little bit because they are no longer have the after-school program at Salvation Army, but they're doing different things at lunch hours and that kind of thing for the different groups in after school. They have been before COVID-19.
Mm-hmm. And our former mayor, Kathleen Highland, is very much involved in this group and wants to acknowledge her good work for this organization and ongoing work for the community through Team Pride. Kathy Highland does a lot of good work for that with them. But I do want to highlight their budget, which is, as we discussed, about $454,000, something like that.
Their overall budget last year was $534,000.
$534,000.
Yes.
And the school district contributes $300,000.
Almost $370,000.
Oh, $370,000.
Yeah.
Okay. And we contribute 55, as you see here. Morristown contributes 58, and last year Morris Plains contributed just 3,000, even though they have a much higher percentage of kids in the program than our numbers show.
Correct.
And then they get some grant money too.
They get some grant money, and also our municipal alliance also funds some of their programs. That's a bunch voted on by the municipal alliance committee.
Mm-hmm.
The Joint Municipal Alliance.
Very good. I just wanted to highlight that we are supporting this kind of public service for the public good in the community outside of what normal operations for North Township is.
Municipal alliance funding for them this year is going to be significantly reduced because with the state budget, where the money comes from, in fiscal year 2020, we were receiving $31,000. We were scheduled to receive a reduction this year of $26,000. That's been cut down to about $12,800. And that we got a portion of that, but we have to fund all the other programs. We try to fund the other programs through the alliance.
Very good. Thanks. I just wanted to highlight that for the
Yeah, I
community
appreciate that.
and the good work you do. Thank you. Okay, so
Yes. So with that, if no one else has any further comments, then I guess shall we vote on all the
Yeah, I believe we have a motion and a second on the floor for that large block of
so we
resolution.
have the motion and the second,
take a roll call.
and we need, the next step is a roll call. So Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Arvanites,
Yes.
Mr. Gyorfy,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, then
And
we
may-
have the 3 additional.
Yeah, so Mayor, I'd like to hand over 198 to Mr. Mancuso, who's the chair of our police standing committee. Mr. Mancuso, would you like to take the honor of 198, please?
Thank you. I offer the resolution 198-20, the promotion of Detective Justin CROWELL to Sergeant in the Morris Township Police Department.
As the other person on the standing committee, I very happily second that motion. Very deserved promotion of Detective CROWELL from detective in our detective bureau to sergeant. I wanted to pull that out to highlight this important promotion within our personnel. So, Mr. Quinn, I believe he's been with us for 12 years, correct?
I hired him.
And you hired him. Good job with that. But we had
Good man.
yeah, it's a good man. This is the chain reaction from when Lieutenant Lawler retired. Last month we promoted Sergeant Howie, correct? Lowy to lieutenant, which opened up his position at sergeant. And we had some interviews. I think there were five eligible people to be promoted to sergeant. They had interviews and a vetting process. And congratulations to Justin CROWELL for this promotion. I wanted to highlight that.
Very good.
We would like to do a promotional ceremony at some point.
I was going to say, this would normally be on a presentation.
Correct, and similar to the fire department, we'd like to do something for them and we want to
Okay, and it would be outdoors.
see that in outdoors and perhaps in the afternoon.
Okay,
Second night.
that would be wonderful.
Okay, so let's take a roll call.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second, and we need a roll call on that resolution.
Yes, Mr. Arvanites,
Yes.
Mr. Gyorfy,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes,
Now I'd like to offer up resolutions 213 and 216, which I think close out the rest of the resolutions.
thank you. Second,
Second.
thank you. And these are the ones Mr. Gyorfy is refusing on. So, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Arvanites,
Yes.
Mr. Gyorfy is recused. Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes. At this time, we will move to our standing committee reports and township committee comments.
So we have business correspondence. I'll move.
Okay. It's a little confusing. Okay, I guess we can.
I will move the general business correspondence and the consent calendar as circulated.
Okay, thank you. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we will move to the standing committee reports and the commentary by township committee. So, Mr. Arvanites.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just bear with me 1 second here.
John, you want to come back to you? I can go now if you want.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. The only thing that I wanted to say is to commend the communications committee for coming out with a wonderful newsletter. I thought it was very well done. It shows that a lot of work was put into it, and everything was well said to discuss the accomplishments that we had. So I want to thank the communications committee and all those that participated in putting that together, because I thought it was the best of all of them so far. The one thing though that I'd like to just make a mention for is that when we do such things, or anything that we do in our town, that we are very diligent with how we move forward with some of these things. And in my opinion, I think that we were lacking some diligence in this, but I'm glad that we caught it, and it will be going out in the near future. That's it. Nothing else to report.
Thank you for catching that, Mr. Arvanites.
Thank you, Mary.
and for pointing out the quality, which I agree with him. Is that it? Thank you.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gyorfy.
Thank you, Mayor. And I agree with Ms. Wilson. John, thanks for calling the issue out later on. I apologize about that, but I agree. I think the product looks great, and our residents will have a great newsletter to review next month, which is only a few weeks away from now. Just trying to pull up my commentary here. I want to touch on a few things for the Legislation Standing Committee. One, thank you to our professionals, Mr. Quinn, Mr. Carlson, the Environmental Commission on their work to help get the bamboo ordinance introduced tonight. We met last week to finalize the details on the ordinance, and I appreciate the committee's support on moving that forward. I'd also wanted to highlight within our resolutions that we voted on tonight, we voted on a resolution that was recommended by the Transportation Advisory Committee, which I believe is their first recommendation for a resolution to the Township Committee. And I think Mayor Wilson may get to this in her report, but I wanted to highlight that the resolution we passed was basically to join Madison and Morristown in recommending that Transoptions, which is a non-for-profit group that seeks alternatives to transit, help better connect our communities together with a bike share program. So I appreciate the support on that resolution. I appreciate TAC's review of it. This resolution supports Transoptions to find corporate sponsors to fund the program and not taxpayers, but I'm encouraged by the work that they've done so far, and we've seen bike shares be successful in other parts of the state. So I am very much looking forward to seeing the proposals they have moving forward to better connect our municipalities. For communications, I just wanted to thank Virginia Murphy and the administration office for her work on the fall newsletter and getting that finalized over the past several weeks. As I said before, residents will be seeing that in early November. For infrastructure, for the Infrastructure Standing Committee, I wanted to note that the upgrades to Convent Station are continuing. A bid is being awarded for the tile work in the waiting room there. And I believe, Mr. Quinn, the old post office building removal project has completed. So the upgrades and the maintenance of Convent Station, our portions of it are moving forward, and I'm very happy to see that. Just lastly, for commentary, I wanted to remind everyone that Veterans Day is coming up November 11th. The township is planning to have a socially distanced service similar to what we've had on Memorial Day. Further details will be provided on the township's website, but I just wanted to remind everyone to commemorate Veterans Day on November 11th and take time to reflect those who served our country and put on the uniform to protect our lives. Lastly, I just wanted to highlight the food drives that the police department, fire department, OEM organized over the past weekend, and also for all the volunteers who put together Hillside Hoses and the Ladies Auxiliaries food drive the weekend before. It really shows how strong of a community we have, and I really appreciate all the love, support both efforts got across the town. So I believe that is all I have, Mayor Wilson, and I will turn back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Gyorfy. Mr. Mancuso.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. For the 37th time, I will iterate that this election coming up coming up Tuesday is the most important election I have been through in my entire life, and I go back to Harry Truman, etc. As you all know, Governor Murphy has decreed that we vote by ballot, hand filled out ballot. Please fill out the ballot, mail it, but you're best off going over to the courthouse and putting it in a special box there that is picked up, that's monitored and picked up very, very frequently. You can also go over to the Hartley Dodge Estate in Madison and plant them, do them there. if you go to vote and you're not handicapped, there's no problem. On election day, you cannot vote in the machine. You'll have to vote a provisional ballot, and your provisional ballot may very well not be counted if it does not have an impact on the election per se. So I would just caution you, please fill it out, mail it in, and, you know, just see what the what's in store for us. If there's if you don't have a ballot and someone hasn't mailed it to you, just call the county clerk, Ann Grassi, and she will provide you with a ballot, just to be sure that everybody is on board with that. All right. Again, congratulations to Fran DeAngelis and the whole staff here, including Tim, for getting such a great grade on this best practices. It's a very, very, very important thing. I congratulate Al Simmons, Mike Sandelli, and Dennis Reed on their 40 years of service to Morris Township. I was here when all of them started. Of course, I took 25 years off in the midst of that. Congratulations again to Detective Justin CROWELL, who has been promoted to sergeant. He was ranked #1 in the promotional study. And for permanent employment, we had 4 of our people who have gone through the entire one-year class. That's Paul Luna, Joseph Pisciotto, Stephen Wint, and Ryan McCarlo, and Catherine Riley. I appreciate all their service. We look forward to seeing them. Hopefully, when they reach their 20 or 25-year retirement, we'll all be here to congratulate them. That's all I have, Ms. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mancuso. Mr. Grayzel.
Thank you. Quick engineering update. The survey work for Sherman Avenue has been completed, so the residents of Fairchild can look forward to the continuation and the moving forward of that project for the total reconstruction of Sherman Avenue in the coming year. The survey work's been done. Quick update from the sewer committee that the Skyline Drive sewer project is coming to a close. I know that they're doing final curb work. I drove down Skyline yesterday just to check it out before the meeting today, and they're putting in some new Belgian block where needed along the roadway. And the entire area is going to be repaved. The entire area of that section of town, including Rolling Hill, Skyline, and the 3 streets above there too, correct?
Dale, Croydon, and Forest.
Yeah, Dale, Forest, and Croydon, correct. So those streets, everything is going to be repaved very shortly, and you'll have a smooth roadway again, because I know it's been pretty bumpy for several months there. On the shared services front, I've been reporting to you periodically that last year when I was mayor, I started a shared services group with Madison, Morristown, and Morris Plains. We had a meeting earlier this week. The group has actually expanded to include Chatham Township and Chatham Borough because the study was so interesting. We surveyed all of our DPW operations across all 6 towns along many different metrics, garbage collection, recycling, leaf collection, chippers, equipment, you name it. There's a whole laundry list of things we examined and put together metrics that rate us per mile of roadway, per household, per resident, or per capita. And so we're going to digest that data, and we're going to meet again in another few weeks, but very proud of that. And also would like to let everybody know that based on my work for shared services and with the Joint Municipal Court, I was selected to be on a panel for the upcoming New Jersey League of Municipalities. So I'm very proud of that based on the work that we've done here.
That's great.
So please, everybody, tune into that.
Tell us when it is.
Very good. And for general comments, I too would like to congratulate our 3 employees who have reached 40 years of service. Really remarkable to be working in one place for so long. So thank you to all 3 of you gentlemen for your dedication to Morris Township. Again, thank you. Congratulations to Detective CROWELL on his promotion to sergeant. Very well done. And congratulations, as Mr. Mancuso had mentioned, to a 1-year completion of probation to Patrolman Steve Wint, Patrolman Ryan Masarico, Patrolman Joe Pisciatti, Patrolman Paul Luna and Patrolwoman Catherine Ridley. Mr. Mancuso and I, on the standing committee of the police department, interviewed all 5 of these last year, and very fine police officers. Morristown is very lucky to have the quality of policing that they do. I have encouraged our police officers to interact with our residents, and I'd love to encourage our residents to interact with our police officers. Anytime you see one of them, please go up and introduce yourself. They are there not just for policing, they are there as a support element within the community, and they're there to help you in many aspects. So please reach out to them if you ever have a need. Please introduce them to you, because they're all very, very fine men and women that we have in our police department. You should be very proud of their work. That's it. Thank you. Oh, one more comment. It's fall leaf collection, and every year I remind people, don't put your leaves in the street, please. A lot of people put their leaves in the street. When it rains, those leaves flow to the storm drains, and you can see lots of storm drains that are clogged with leaves and other brush, and then the stormwater just runs past it. So please keep your leaves off the street. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to comment on 2 things you said. One is that I agree with your encouragement of people to reach out to the police. And I was at the food drive on Saturday, and there were some little kids there, and they were sharing the cards that are sort of like the baseball cards.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that.
That was so interesting. The kids loved. There's one kid getting his collection. It was just really fun.
Yeah,
Great idea.
Right, the police department has issued actually trading cards so that everybody can learn the names and faces of our officers in Morris Township. It's a fantastic idea.
It is.
And Mr. Quinn, where can our kids get them?
Contacting Lieutenant Globalich at police headquarters would be the best bet.
Okay, very good.
Well, all the kids, we encourage you to do.
Yeah, all the kids encourage you to do that. It's a pack of trading cards. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. And
They
then
each have 500.
what's that?
They each have 500, so.
I know.
My budget large officers.
They got a few.
So collecting the whole set might be a little hard. Okay.
I believe there's a contest out there being run by DDA to see who can collect those.
Most. Okay.
From what I was told, I don't know that.
There you go.
But
Yeah,
Very
the kid that I saw on Saturday was in the running for that. He was collecting a lot.
Good. And it's just the last shout out to Chief DeCarlo for all the good work he's doing in running such a fine department. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to just pick up one comment on the shared services work you guys are doing. I think that's commendable. So I would be interested to follow or to participate or see on Zoom, however it's held, the panel discussion at the week, because they are doing really interesting work on dealing with the DPW and all the measurements, and it's a very analytic approach.
Very analytic.
And I've never seen anything like it. So good job, great job on that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. A couple of my standing committee reports: energy, environment, and sustainability. I'm really proud of our environmental commission's work on pushing forward with the bamboo ordinance, and I'm glad we introduced that tonight. Mr. Gyorfy was especially interested in pushing on that, and I agree with it. It's important. It doesn't solve all of our problems, but it does make a step forward on working with this. I'm also very glad we pushed and we got the associates ordinance introduced, and I'm really looking forward to getting that in place so that we can bring on we have quite a few people who are interested in volunteering and helping out. And then I also just wanted to thank our Mr. Kenny, the chair of our environmental commission. He worked really hard to put together a training session on stormwater management. And we started off where the training was, the environmental commission wanted it, but it clearly applies to the planning board and board of adjustment as well. Anytime you have to review a site plan, the stormwater management is a very important part of it. And there's a lot of background to understand what's going on. So this will be, I'm really glad that we're offering it. It is primarily for our board members. And who knows, maybe we'll do one for the public in the days ahead. But this one is primarily for the board members, so they're in a better position to review site plans more carefully. On the Transportation Advisory Committee, TAC, yes, I did want to highlight the resolution that we passed, participating. It puts us now, Morristown and Madison, had previously passed resolutions expressing an interest in participating, and now we're on board with that as well. This goes back, I don't know, probably a couple of years. Trans Options has been looking at trying to initiate a bike share program that would connect the three towns. And this is just one more step along that journey. It will take quite a while to move it forward and make it happen, but we're, with our resolution tonight, expressing that we support that, and it does not commit us to anything, any kind of financial contribution. It just says that we support the project and we encourage corporations to consider supporting it with sponsorships. Also, I just wanted to highlight TAC is doing a survey. They haven't sent it out yet. They're in the process of constructing it. And what their sort of reasoning is that with COVID and more people staying home, our transportation, our walking, biking, driving habits are kind of changing. Part of the survey is just to kind of get a handle on, what people's current patterns are, and then to tap into whatever suggestions people might have for improving connectivity, improving safety. And I'm expecting that to be coming pretty soon. I would say within a month or so, they're expecting to finish it. And so you will be receiving it by email. And so just wanted to give a heads up to be on the lookout for that. I like what they're doing, and I think it'll be good information for us going forward. Well, I did want to comment on Halloween. We are canceling because of the COVID considerations. We're canceling our trunk or treat and the parades, and that was a very difficult decision for us, but it was based on the recommendation of our health department professionals. So that's what we chose to do. And we do have some flyers that the two Chathams have shared with us, I believe Madison too, that we will make available somehow to the public. Are they already posted on our website?
Our health educator, Liz Omni, has been working and working on those. So we have a news messenger going out. Halloween is still permissible, and with some guidelines that are coming from our health department, Department of Health, to be a safe Halloween, and also some of these flyers that people can put up if they wish to participate or not participate in Halloween. So that's all coming out from our health education department. It'll be going out on Messenger, Facebook, Instagram.
Right.
All probably sometime, I would guess tomorrow. I know they've been working very hard on it this week. Great,
glad to hear that. Some of those posters are really cute, and somebody might want them to put on your door. Some people may welcome trick-or-treaters, others may not. So there's posters to fit whatever your view is. I did want to highlight also, just remember our November meeting is on Thursday, not Wednesday, and on Veterans Day, the day before, we will be doing a ceremony kind of similar to what we did on Memorial Day. This is different from what we've done in the past, and we'll have a ceremony here at 10 o'clock, hopefully outdoors. If it's inclement weather, we will figure out how to do it indoors. That'll be a bit challenging given the restrictions that we have, and which may change between now and then. But with any luck, the weather will be good, and we do plan to have an outdoor ceremony. So watch for that. And then I wanted to highlight also two things that we've been doing, and they're not well known. We've mentioned them, so I just want to take this opportunity to highlight here. One is that in the last few months, the township has set up, we have now our own YouTube channel. It's called Morris Township Videos. And you can Google Morris Township videos YouTube, and you can go on there and you can see whatever videos have been posted to date. And frequently the videos are posted within 24 to 48 hours. And so I just want to let people know that's available as a resource for you to use. And I also wanted to highlight, this is something else not well known. Our township committee meetings are aired on Cablevision, otherwise known as Optimum. And effective on October 1st, the schedule changes. So up until then, we were scheduled for 7 to 9 p.m. on Monday nights. And now we are switched, and our new schedule is Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. So just wanted to highlight that. I wanted to also echo what Mr. Mancuso said, encouraging everyone to vote. A passion of mine for decades has been to encourage people to, encourage active, informed citizenship, and voting is just basic to that. So I encourage everyone to exercise your right to vote, a sacred, precious right that many people have died to preserve. So this particular election, we all know it's unique. And you can, everyone is voting by mail. You can drop your ballot in the post box, in the mail, or in the drop box outside the courthouse in Morristown. There is a possibility, which many people are not aware of. On election day, if you wish, you can bring in your vote by mail, and there will be a ballot box in town hall, but on election day only.
And Mayor, they have to sign the book, the register book, in order to leave that ballot.
Okay.
So they can't bring somebody else's ballot in. This is just a singular ballot, and they're required to sign the election book that the poll workers will have.
Okay. And it's my understanding there will be a box for depositing the ballots, and is that correct?
That is correct, along with the provisional ballots. There'll be two separate rooms here. One for people that are dropping off and wish to sign the book and drop off their ballots that they receive by mail. And then in the other room, we'll be dealing with the provisional ballots for people that vote provisionally.
Okay.
And then we have the social distancing in place and ready to go.
Yes. So all the ballots are counted, but if the people who vote by provisional, if there is a delay, obviously, because it's that day. But it's not that they're not counted, they are counted.
They will not be counted until after all of the other ballots are voted, because they have to ensure that the voter did not already previously ballot vote by the mail-in ballot. So they will be counted, but it will be at the end of the process, not during the process.
Correct. It comes at the end after they've tabulated all the vote by mail ballots.
That is correct, and to ensure that any provisional ballots, there is not a mail-in ballot that was previously submitted.
Correct. Okay. My experience with this kind of thing is that I would predict that a concern might be signature mismatches. So I would encourage everyone to sign carefully. This is not something to just sort of, whatever your normal signature, whatever your signature is that you signed in the voter book, that's what will be looked at for matching. And it is my understanding that the ballots where a determination is that the signatures don't match, that the voter will be notified by mail, and that there are procedures in place for the voter to make the correction. But all of this takes time, which to me speaks to the importance of, turning your ballot in, whichever in the mail or in the drop box as soon as possible. And with that, I believe that's all I've got. So, yes, Mr. Grayzel.
Sorry, just to good luck to everybody who's on the ballot this year, including yourself, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Grayzel. Okay, so next up we have the consideration of, oh no, sorry, public comment, second public comment. I'm sorry, we had a couple different editions of the agenda, so I'm getting my papers confused here. Sorry about that. Okay, public comment. Do we have anyone from the public who would like to share any comments or ask any questions?
Please raise your hand.
Please raise your digital hand. No one?
I move we close the public portion.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Consideration of monthly reports.
I'll move those as circulated.
Thank you. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we will pay the bills. $12,219,774.70.
So moved.
I'll offer it.
Second.
Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Arvanites,
Yes.
Mr. Gyorfy,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. And with that, I need a motion for adjournment.
I would make that motion, Madam Chairman, that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. And for the last time, our next meeting in November is the 12th on a Thursday, 7 p.m. So thank you, everyone, and happy Halloween. And we'll look forward to seeing you in November. Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night. Good night.